find fascinating is what makes high-performing teams the way they are. What makes great teams great. And this article does a great job of capturing what high-performing teams do differently. Let's dive in. The author begins by saying that there are three psychological needs that need to be fulfilled by a high-performing team or an extraordinary workplace: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And relatedness is the hardest one to measure because it's basically what it really comes down to is you can attract great employees, but how can you make sure that they're actually going to feel connected to each other or even like each other? So they surveyed over 1,000 US-based office workers, and they asked them to rate their team's effectiveness and then compare their team's performance to other teams in their industry. And they only looked at workers who scored their team 10 out of 10 as high-performing teams, and then they looked at what those high-performing teams do, and there are 5 things. And now we're going to go into the 5 things. Some of them might surprise you. Number 1, high-performing teams are not afraid to pick up the phone. Performing teams communicate more frequently in general, and they're more likely to communicate either over the phone or, I think in this case, maybe through video or something like that. They actually have fewer misunderstandings by communicating over the phone more. Number 2 is they're strategic with their meetings. They might require pre-work, they might introduce an agenda, they might begin with a check-in. A lot of this is like what we talked about in the More Effective Meetings video, so this just proves that. 3, high-performing teams invest time bonding over non-work topics. They might talk about things like sporting events, the last movie they saw, and what this really comes down to is they are identifying shared interests, which fosters deeper liking and authentic connection. You know, as it turns out, getting coffee with your coworker or meeting up for happy hour actually can impact whether or not you're on a high-performing team. It can make your team that much better. Number 4 is that they give and receive appreciation more frequently. I love this part. Members of high-performing teams reported receiving more frequent appreciation at work from their colleagues and their managers. Number 5 surprised me. It might surprise you too. High-performing teams are more authentic at work. These teams reported being more likely to compliment, joke with, and tease their teammates. They might use emojis or exclamation points. They also felt more comfortable expressing negative emotions. I love this article. Let me know your thoughts.